Alright, hi. We don't have a huge amount of time, so here's how to make hair. I'm gonna show you how to make something like this. Okay, this is a rendered image. Okay, so hopefully, see, the hair system here hasn't, like, it's just been implemented. Like, it's been around for like only a few months, so I'm not completely familiar with it. But here's me hoping I can do something. So here, we're just gonna add hair to this UV sphere. So I'm gonna just do the normal stuff. So I'm gonna add a subsurf, maybe just one level. It's fine because it's already pretty small. Uh, I will also, yeah, I think that's good enough actually. It's already in cycles, so I'd like to go to this panel, this little starry panel. This is called the particle system, particle properties. And when I click this, and there's no particles, that's empty right now. So I'm gonna press new, and that's gonna add a particle system. And if I play, it'll actually, have particles popping out of it, but we don't want that. So we want to change, this is not the type of particle we want. So we're going to change the type to from emitter to hair. And yeah, you kind of have the hair. Yeah, it's completely straight though. And we're actually just gonna go here and change this to rendered mode actually, so we know what it looks like. And it's pitch black because we have no lights, so let's add a light. You know how to do this. Just add material, make it emission, maybe like 10. Actually, that's too much. 4. Yeah, that looks about right. So let's turn back to this cube here, and let's add the material for this too. Anyways, let's go to the particle system, and first thing you're gonna see is the hair lengths, and it's obviously way too long for our needs here. We're just gonna turn it down, so it's a bit shorter, significantly shorter. And you can see that the tip, it's kind of like straight. It's kind of like spikes at the moment, and we don't want to have that. One thing we need to do is actually increase the number of particles or number of hairs. Let's actually go to like something like 4,000, and yours is going to be a bit different. Probably need more. You probably need more because yours is a rabbit, mine's just a sphere. But yeah. Anyways, oh, by the way, if you go to the modifier panel, you see under the subsurf, you'll see a particle system. But you can't. It's considered a type of modifier, but you can't actually modify it uh, except in the particle systems tab. And if I turn this down, it'll actually it makes a difference. Okay, subsurf has to be on the bottom. Anyways, particle system. Okay, so quickly let's just go to children, and this is how we're gonna mass produce our hair, right? So now we're kind of lacking a hair. It doesn't look anything like fur at the moment. So let's actually go to children, and children basically means instead of making more hairs, like as in increasing the emission number here, uh, what increasing the emission number actually does is it creates completely new hair. Like it's completely new. So every bit of hair needs more data. So in other words, more laggy. And we don't want that, so we're going to use children, and that basically means is we're going to take what we already have, like these particles, these hairs, and we're going to duplicate them on the surface. So they don't need more data. It's just copy and paste basically. So the computer handles it better. So let's go to interpolated, and that's going to give you a whole bunch of hair, and it's already looking pretty, furry. But there's one more problem, and that it's all perfectly straight. So we don't want it to be perfectly straight. So what do we do? So let's see. So uh, let's not make it that straight. So let's go to clump here in effects, and that basically effects basically alters how the hair is being calculated. Right now we have nothing. Everything is either 0 or 1. So um, we there's no data going into it. For every single hair, there's an equation for it. Like there's an equation marking out how the hair is going to go, and we haven't altered that equation. It's just yeah, we haven't done anything to it. So let's actually change the clump a little bit, and you'll see it actually bunches up into little tiny bits. You can see it here, and also in the see, yeah, you can see that here. We don't want to clump yet. Actually, not that much. Let's actually change the shape, which will probably be more important. Let's turn it down. And nothing happened. Why did nothing happen? What? Why did nothing happen? Wait a second. Okay, so I figured out what I was missing, and it was here. Roughness. I can't believe I missed this. Roughness, uniform. I want it to be less uniform, so let's turn it up a little bit. And you see how it kind of starts having waves? That's kind of the thing we want. And maybe we turn it the size down a little bit. And this is in children because it's altering the children data. You see it's, yeah. If you go out, yeah. You get the idea, yeah? I should turn it up even more. So you get stuff like this lump of weird things. But you can get like sort of a furry, and it looks lumpy here, but when you render it, it's gonna look a bit better because for one thing, yours is on a rabbit, which already has a defined shape, and having it all over the place may not necessarily be a bad thing. In fact, usually it's a good thing because messiness is a very natural thing to have. Like you're not gonna find a rabbit with really combed hairs, right? So yeah, fool around with these settings a little bit. Uh, yeah, you can change the material obviously here. You don't use the hair thing. Yeah, like that's not what it's used for. At the moment, just set it to diffuse, and then like if you want, you can kind of mix. You can mix. Where's mix here? Mix and mix diffuse with a little bit of glossy, and it kind of give you a shiny hair. That's kind of what we'll give you. Let's say brown for the moment. Like that, and you see how it's some of it's silver, and that's too much obviously. I'm gonna actually turn it down. Preview, obviously previews are great. I'm gonna mainly let the brown dominate and kind of have a little bit of glossy. That's what this factor means. The fact. Anyways, that's particles. And these the children tab, they kind of alter this, alter how it's moved. So I can just these are different you know ways to curl your hair, and it really depends on your object. Again, unfortunately I'm not very familiar with this system because it's just been around for a while, like a few months. But there you go. Screw around with this. I would say interpolate it in terms of simple, because interpolate kind of gives more random effect. um, you can also change the shape of the hair, the thickness. I would say keep it at a relatively thin level. Yeah, because hairs tend to be really thin, and if you have too thick hairs, it doesn't really, it looks like a whole bunch of spikes instead of hair. So yeah, there you go. That's hair. So here's the question. How do you, like, let's say I have let's just import, let me append a bear object. I think it's this one. Yeah, so here I have a bear. So what if I only want it on like the hair, to be on some particular parts, not just, and my camera obviously is too far away. And Carol just slammed the door on me. This is actually really nice poly, actually. It's really, really nicely modeled. I didn't model this. I found it on the internet. Yeah, wow, very nicely done, actually. Anyways, let's turn it down a little bit so we don't need it at such a high res. Let's add a particle system. But what happens when you add hair is that, yeah, that happens. For one thing, it's all over the place. For another thing, and not in a good way. Another thing is that it's everywhere. It's like it's on the head, it's on the body. Let's increase the number, by the way. Like it's not. I don't want it on. Let's say I don't want it on the head, for the sake of uh, uh for the sake of demonstrating, and I have no light. Okay, that'll just have to stay there for a second. Actually, you know what? I'll just hide it. I will hide this ball. Anyway, so what if I don't want it to be on some parts of my mesh? So let me delete that particle system. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press 1 to get into the side, and then select. You know how to do this. Select the head, and I'm actually gonna use Control I. And Control I inverts my selection, kind of like in Photoshop. So I Shift D. So now I have 2 copies of the body, which is what I want my hair to be on. So I right click to snap it back in place. Now I have 2 meshes. I have 2 different meshes, but they're all in the same object. So I want to remove them. So let's press, I think it's J. No, it's P. No. J, P. P. I want to separate by loose parts. Okay, so now I have 2 objects. So I have this object, the bare object, and this object. And this is essentially the same thing as this. Okay, it's exactly the same shape, maybe slightly different in terms of subsurf or whatever, but generally speaking the same shape. So now when we add the particle system, hair, and let's turn the length down a little. I don't know why the default is so large. We can see now that the hair is only appearing on this particular mesh. Okay, it's not appearing on the head. So that's how you separate things, and this kind of went inwards a little bit. Because I didn't have anything selected here, so that's why there's no hair. But I can increase that number. Let's say 4,000. Actually, that's 400. 4,000. That's not enough. But let's turn on children and see. How's that doing? That's not that great. But let's say 6,000. And the more hairs you have, obviously, the more laggy it's gonna get. And let me do the same things. My lighting is actually pretty good. It looks pretty slick. I'll just turn down the uniform. Actually, I'll turn up the uniform, or turn down, so it's more messy. So it's kind of puffy right now. He's like having this fur coat. I'm gonna turn the hair length slightly lower. Okay, maybe even more hair then. That's a lot of hair. Whoops. Whoa, it's crashing. It's actually extra slow because I'm recording my screen. I'll set it to 40 so I don't die. Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, yeah, and you can just modify these settings to affect the children, and also these settings to affect the actual hair type. But I wouldn't mess with this if I were you. So I would just put it here. Like I said, I don't know all the settings that well because this is new. Like this was just added to cycles. Before it was just for internal render. So yeah, there you go. That's how you make hair.